Hey guys, it's Braveheart Training Academy's weekly update. This is Justin, head instructor of Braveheart Training Academy.
And I am the co-host, Ria. I have been preparing for life's disasters for 16 years because I'm married to this guy.
All right, so what we wanted to go over, guys, there's a couple things, and we want to learn from these things. We don't just want to go through the news or anything like that. Ultimately, we all know that recently there was really bad wildfires in Maui, and so there's just some pretty important things that we want to go through. So, Reen, how about you fill us in on some of the details?
Okay, so as of 3 hours ago, there's 96 people who have died. There's several people who are missing. We have thousands of people displaced, and out of the 2,200 structures that have been completely destroyed, 86% of them were residential. So absolutely thousands of people have lost their home and lost everything that they own. In addition to that, there was a long period in which cell service was unavailable. Nobody could communicate the way that they were used to communicating, and water was either too low or not available, one, to put out the wildfires, but also accessible to civilians. So people were unable to access drinking water. And I think the other significant thing in terms of being prepared is many people who were evacuating had to walk. So there was one example of an elderly couple who had to walk 15 miles to get to a local gym that could provide them shelter. And that was a challenge for them. So these are things to be thinking about when it comes time for your preparedness plan for your family. What will you be able to do, and what could you think of ahead of time to attempt to be prepared for the things that are unpreparable?
So there's a lot of times that Rhea and I have discussed bugging out, and it's one of the big things that was really spoken about, when we first started getting into being prepared. And this is a really good example of a situation where bugging out is the only answer. And so being prepared for that is really important. One thing that we want to cover coming up soon is going to be our Prepping 101 course, where we're going to cover lots of good information on the areas of preparation, which is going to be water, food, security, community, medicine, things like that. But ultimately, a lot of times you do want to bug in. You want to use your castle as a safe place for you to be. But again, this gives us an example, unfortunately, that you need to have some things ready. A 15-mile hike when you're not ready, if you don't have stuff with you, it can be very dangerous. You may survive that emergency in the first 24 hours, but there's no guarantees after that. So having some preparation is really important.
Okay, next up. So school's back in session, and if you're like our family, all of your kids will be gathering around the dining room table for homeschool. But if your children are headed to public school or any kind of co-op or drop-off program, you definitely want your child to have an EDC. So an EDC is an everyday carry. This is a backpack that contains some basic emergency supplies. And if you want to know more, just head to our blog. Justin has written a really well thought out school supplies list, EDC style. We offer some free printables, and we explain why your child might need some of these things in their backpack. Okay, so if you haven't heard yet, there is a potential rice shortage. The country of India supplies almost 50% of rice exports throughout the world, and they had a really poor, they had a bad rainy season, a poor harvest, and that's resulting in them deciding to keep their rice for their own countrymen and not export it to the United States. So if you live in the United States, you're going to see prices of rice get higher. If you're of South Asian descent, the types of rice that you're probably used to eating daily in your home are going to be really hard to find, and you may have to attempt to substitute. My suggestion to you for should I go out and buy rice right now? Well, it depends. Does your family eat rice? If your family eats rice and you don't have any, I think it would be wise to go and get at least one bulk bag. This is what that looks like right here. And there are some specific ways to store this to make sure that it stores long term. But if your family does not eat rice, I definitely do not advise you rushing out and buying any, because you want to store what you eat.
So often when things like this happen, shortages, anytime something political happens, especially that's going to affect the Second Amendment, people rush out and buy firearms, which there could be, I guess, technically worse things to do. But what's really important here is you guys want to be thinking, more long term, and it's something we want to cover in that 101 class, because you may need rice, you may not. Just because the prices are going to go up, maybe it would be better at a better time to invest in something else. So making those considerations, one of the things we want to accomplish through these weekly updates is trying to make sense of what we need to be doing with the information that we're getting, and continuing to be prepared and be smart about it, not be panic buying and doing things like that, because ultimately we all have limited resources.
So this leads into our next topic, which is grocery store prices. They're ever increasing. It doesn't look like there's any signs of it stopping. And people are trying to find ways to cut costs without sacrificing quality. There's a lot of unique ways to go about doing this. Things like buying in bulk, talking to your local farmers, and participating in co-ops, and also growing your own food. Now, it's August, and in most of the United States, it is the perfect time to start a fall garden. This is something where you're going to get a lot of leafy greens, and you could get them pretty quickly, and they can continue to grow even into the winter months when there's snow on top of them. So keep a watch for us to release some tips on fall gardening. And our final update.
All right, so just want to cover a little bit more information. I've already put out some videos and covered this quite extensively on Facebook, etc. But then update on the new qual interim qualification for the permit to carry. Just want everybody to first know that the application is now online. So that means any kind of physical documents, pictures, and things like that, you're going to need to scan and upload. The big benefit to this going online is that ultimately it looks like costs are going to be down. You're not doing fingerprinting anymore, and you may be able to get your permit much faster. I've heard as little time as 24 hours on a permit. And then I just want to encourage you guys again, this qualification hopefully is going away soon. There is already lawsuit in place, and I think Judge Baum is going to be looking at it and coming up with hopefully another TRO to put a stop to the basically inappropriate qualification. But in the meantime, if you're willing and ready, get the training, get the practice in, do the qualification. I think it's very doable. And ultimately, some of the things that you need to do in this qual are going to be beneficial for you moving forward. So if you have questions about that, please reach out. And then what is our last thing that we want to cover?
So that's our update. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment or send us a message at bravehearttraining@pm.me. We also have a defensive pistol course that we're teaching live in South Jersey on Saturday, August 26th. If you're interested, send us a message. And we still have availability this month for qualifications and lessons. And if you were ever interested in having your own personal small group do a lesson, you can just reach out to us. If you'd like to subscribe to our email newsletter, which will come with more resources for what we're talking about today, you can subscribe at bravehearttrainingacademy.com.
And ultimately, you can reach out to us for any other questions or help. A lot of times I'm very willing to adjust and accommodate for firearms lessons and anything else pertaining to that. Keep a lookout for the Prepping 101 course coming up soon. I think that's it.
Okay, that's our update. Thanks for watching.
Be intentional, be brave.